to the SheClicks webinar about branding in photography. I'm Angela Nicholson and I'm the founder of SheClicks. Now, before we get going, we have a word from our sponsor. This webinar is sponsored by Nikon, a world-leading provider of imaging products and services. Nikon's regional director, Charlotte Kelmsley, says, "At Nikon, we pride ourselves on supporting photographers producing inspiring video and still images. We're honoured to be partnering with SheClicks and share the ambition of increasing the visibility of women in all aspects of photography." So thank you very much to Nikon. Okay, that's enough from me. It's time to hear from our speaker, Tianna Williams, a midwife-turned-photographer and Nikon Creative. Hi, Tianna. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Angela. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. I'm so glad to have you here. And I'm really looking forward to speaking with you all about branding in photography and from my perspective, what I feel makes a successful brand. I started off as a midwife. I always wanted to work with women, and that's what I pride myself on now. So yeah, I became a photographer because I wanted to do something more, and I get this question all the time where people ask me, what more could you possibly want? You have like the best job in the world, bringing new life into the world. And I guess I became a mum myself, and I felt that I couldn't give to the women in the way that I wanted to and also support my family, so I turned to photography. I started off with a home studio, and I think most of us probably start off that way unless you kind of head straight into weddings or you do have a dedicated space at home. I was in my living room. I was fully self-employed in 2018, and what I did was book workshops, lighting, posing and editing for maternity. I then got my first space in 2019, so I realized that, I mean, by that point I had 2 children and we needed our home space back. And so I have a studio now. Became a Nikon Creator in 2021, which I still am, and then I've entered awards and competitions. I've been speaking and teaching as well. So at a glance, I qualified in 2012 actually as a registered nurse, but I knew that midwifery was where I was going with my career, and so I trained to be a midwife, and that was an 18-month course. A year later, I bought a camera because I liked taking photographs, and I just took them on my phone. And actually what happened was I dropped here on holiday in water and everything was ruined. And I thought now's the time to actually get a camera. I didn't think it was going to turn into a business or anything like that. Just it was more for fun. I rented cameras when I went to festivals and I just enjoyed the process. So as I said, I worked in the NHS happily as a midwife, and then I had my first daughter in 2016, and she became the catalyst for my journey into photography, and I wanted to capture her as she grew. And again, I feel like this is something that is synonymous across many women photographers. A lot of us start off with photographing our children because we want to capture those very early moments and early days. In 2017, I registered my business and a small website, and then I was fully self-employed in 2018. And to be honest, I had no real idea what I was doing or what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to be, which I also wasn't sure about. Okay, so I'm a photographer. Now what? What does that actually mean? So I took these workshops and I was really interested in maternity, family and newborns. And this was kind of in the summer of 2017. And I had an idea slowly of where I wanted to go, because that was sort of who I was working with in my job. I was working with women, families, new babies. I also started off doing events like birthday parties, christenings and cake smashes. And they weren't really me. I wasn't happy doing them, but it was great to kind of have that experience because I think it gave me an idea of the direction I did want to go to. I did think about going back into the NHS. I did apply for jobs, but I knew that it wasn't really the direction that I wanted to kind of go into. And you know, I got offered jobs and then things would slowly pick up with photography, so I turned them down, and I kind of continued this pattern for a short while. February 2018, I went on a workshop that was all about maternity and newborn photography, and I thought, you know what, this absolutely is it. I was hooked, and I realized that this was the perfect opportunity to combine what became 2 passions, so my love for women and pregnancy and photography. So for me, this was the perfect combination. I realized how much I absolutely loved it. I felt like I was a midwife again. I was giving women advice about labor and birth. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. And people are choosing me for that. And I had the opportunity to spend all this extra time with them, something that I really missed in my previous careers. You know, and when they would come in with their newborn babies and we talk about the birth and the early days, honestly, it felt exactly the same, just without all the pressures and the shift work and, you know, feeling kind of overwhelmed with everything going on. So when I think about it, this was kind of the beginning of my unique selling point, my USP. This was my identity, that they felt safe in my hands, that they felt that I was experienced in all of these things. And so choosing me for them was the right thing to do. And that, again, is what I felt became the kind of driving force behind my maternity photography. So talking about how things kind of developed for me, as I mentioned, I got my first studio space, which you can see in the corner there. It was a very, very tiny room, despite the building looking so big. I had the opportunity to showcase my work during an online retreat, teaching other photographers. Things were happening really quickly, and maternity images that I was taking were being recognized as my own work, even if my name wasn't there. And so that was huge for me. I continued entering competitions and I was doing okay. So Rising International Photographer of the Year, this was a competition that was mainly hosted in Australia. So to be awarded this so early on was incredible. And it kind of just reinforced all about doing maternity, because I, you know, was doing great. And then, you know, with that, again, the trust of my clients, respective followers and friends, and then, of course, suppliers that I worked with in the industry as well. So then this kind of led me on to think about, like, who am I? How can I be different? What is it about me that makes me the one that people should choose to go to? And I really wanted to stand out. I wanted to be more luxury. I wanted to be kind of like really relaxed and lovely and inviting. But what did that really mean? So I spent some time kind of looking at brands and photographers that I was inspired by. And one thing I noticed was that they had clean logos, simple styling, the colors were really beautiful. And one of the other exercises that I've been encouraged to kind of do every now and again, or even just kind of helps to reinforce and get you back to the base, was kind of using words to figure out what you wanted to be most like. And the words that always stand out to me are sophisticated, modern, creative, artistic, fashionable. But equally, I wanted to still be that caring, relatable, friendly, inviting person that I felt I was as a midwife. So I always encourage people that if they kind of get a little bit stuck about trying to figure out their own brand, and not just your business brand, but your personal brand, sit down, have a look at some words and think about what resonates with you the absolute most, and then try to build yourself and your business all around that. So this is my new logo, which I've had for a while now, and I love it because it's so much simpler. My previous logo was full of colors. It was almost very neon. And I think it's one of those things that every photographer goes through. We all have those wildly crazy, colorful logos that eventually, when we find our style and our identity, we look back and we think, my gosh, what was I even thinking? But it's fine. It's part of that whole journey. So this is my website now, and as I was saying, along with my crazy wild logo, my previous website had way too much going on there. So what I wanted was to just keep it really simple, have that kind of wow image, and that, you know, really draws you in and makes you think, oh my gosh, I want to look and be like this woman. And that's kind of what I went for, and that's what I got. I did have it designed for me, but I do know how to, you know, make changes myself. So that's always really handy. The next thing I kind of looked at and had some training in is about kind of improving the whole client experience. And this was something that was really important to me in my previous career. So it was really fundamental that the women that were in my care felt, you know, really looked after, really cared for, that their motherhood and pregnancy and labor journey was personalized. So it was perfect to kind of use some of those elements from that into my photography. And some of the things that I do with them now is they have like a pre-session consultation. So I invite them into the studio and we talk about what they want, show them a range of products to choose from. They get to touch and feel them and see them. I did get a better studio space, and I will say that this isn't always something that's necessary. You don't have to have a studio at all if it's not the way you work, it's not your style. But for me, it was essential. The space I was in just wasn't fit for purpose anymore. I like to have plenty of contact with them. And this was the same with when I worked as a midwife. You know, we see them at certain points during the pregnancy, and that just helps to reinforce that relationship that you build with them. I now do viewing and ordering appointments in person. Of course, if they live some distance away, then we will do that via Zoom, but I always try to encourage them to come back, because again, it's just nice to get together, look at the images. And then we have the collection of orders, which you can see some of my clients there in the image, or delivery if they're not able to come to the studio. Whistle stop tour of things that I kind of got involved in, because I feel like this started to help build my social and online presence, and this kind of adds value to you as a person, to your business. It helps with your clients, because they like to follow these things, especially if they're really invested in you, not necessarily money wise, but time, and because they're rooting for you and they really want you to do well. So I took part in an exhibition with UK Black female photographers called We Are Here, and that was also featured in The Guardian, on the BBC. We got quite a bit of coverage from that, which was absolutely awesome. Magazine features, so Amateur Photographer magazine, Digital Photographer. You can see the AP magazine there with my image on the front cover, which was just huge to kind of walk into Tesco and see that and, like, you know, run around waving it like a wild woman. That was awesome. Online articles, f-stop was online again. I do teach now, so that was also really helpful to have the opportunity to feature there. The f-stop is a very huge, widely viewed, widely read platform. Speaking at the photography show, which I've done 2 years in a row now, which has been amazing. And then the Milky Way online, that was in 2020, and I've also just done another class this year, which was incredible. Moving forward, guest judging for competitions, which is also hugely valuable experience to not only learn from other judges, but see other images and try to understand how they were created. So it's been a learning opportunity for me, but also a wonderful opportunity to kind of share and help other photographers grow, which is something I deeply value. And I've also had the opportunity to benefit from that myself. The Irish Photographer and Videographer Awards, APNPI, which is based in Canada. And then, of course, like trade show and event speaking, so the societies, conventions and trade shows. Now I've been teaching one-to-one classes in my studio, been to Edinburgh, and I'm starting to do a little bit more around the UK this year. I did get to host in Photo magazine for an apprentice day and had a reader come to my studio, which was also really, really awesome. So getting out there as much as possible and opening yourself up to these opportunities really is beneficial. It helps give you more visibility, and visibility is massive, especially these days. Things move so quickly. So getting these opportunities and networking and making the most of getting to know different people really does put you in good stead for you know, widening your online and social presence. In all of this time, I learned so much for like my self-development, and it related back to maternity photography always, because that's the genre that I'm most proud of and that I love the most. One of the most awesome things was that I got invited to speak on the Six Figure podcast, but I'm not quite there yet. So maybe some point in the future that would be really, really cool to do. So why all of this? I know it kind of just sounded like, oh, just talking about yourself, but when I look back at the journey, I feel and I can recognize that my brand was defined by who I am and what I absolutely love the most. And your personal brand and your business brand absolutely kind of intertwine. Your conduct online as a person on your personal and professional pages is really crucial to building your brand and how people have respect for you. And what you really want to kind of be in, the kind of position that you want to be in, is one where people are happy to kind of mention your name in a room in a positive light, even if you're not in there. And I feel like that's something I've been lucky to have in some instances, and that's just because of things like networking and, you know, showing up for your friends, showing up for yourself, showing up for your business and the industry as a whole. continuing to always kind of develop myself and my skills always, and that's not just in business, that's personally as well, so that I can be really wholesome and ready to kind of fight the fires when we need to. It's been a tough few years, but also ones full of a lot of learning and education. Being true to the people I photograph, and again, this brings me back to midwifery and what that is all about, kind of being with women and all about them. I didn't think I had a style either, but what I really wanted to do was just empower kind of the ordinary woman through her pregnancy, and this was kind of what midwifery was underpinned by. So it really felt super natural doing maternity photography and being all about pregnancy and women, because I always have been. So what have I learned? Be the best version of myself. Only I can do that. And it's really important that when you can kind of shut out all of the noise and just take time to kind of look inside of yourself and really realize that only you can be the greatest person that you can be. And that's a wonderful thing. And your clients will love you for that. People want to see you and connect with the person behind the camera. So yes, photography is incredible and love it, and we get to hide behind the camera, but every now and again come out to the other side and show people who you are, what you're all about, and why you do what you do, because it's so valuable. And I find, you know, with social media, the reach is so much better, and you get so many more interactions, and you can make friends and network with people, and then again, opportunities come from that. You don't have to kind of stick with one genre or specialism if you don't want to, but whatever you do decide, make it yours, do it your way, and love it wholly and completely. Don't give up on your dreams. Take the little steps as they come, because eventually they'll build up to the big steps. I still have dreams and aspirations and goals, and when I look back, some of the things that I'm doing now are things that I really wanted to do back then. So it's crazy. You don't realize it often when you're kind of in the motion and you're doing it as it happens, but it comes to you. And you don't need to know everything right now. And that's also something I really struggled with. I wanted it all to be kind of here the very next day, and it's just not possible. Enjoy the process and enjoy the journey of kind of building up yourself and building up your business. They go hand in hand and they work well together. If something doesn't serve you or align with your own values, saying no is absolutely fine. Let it go. You'll be happier for it, and you'll be able to spend more time focusing on what does align with you. Asking for help, seek out professionals you feel you identify with the most and learn from them. And as I said, networking is incredibly powerful. You know, sometimes people are more than happy to share things with you because they feel that, you know, you deserve that information, because you've put the effort in to kind of be genuine and wholesome. One other thing that I always kind of mention is making a vision board. So working on your goals and dreams, use this as motivation to keep you going when things get tough. So if you have an aspiration to be in a magazine, put that on your board, figure out how you can kind of make yourself more open to those opportunities. Practice makes perfect. Always practice, do model calls, spend time practicing speaking, spend time practicing you know, introducing yourself to your audience. You can only get better. And, you know, the first time you do it and the 100th time you do it, there's going to be a massive improvement. As long as you get started, you'll be awesome. Another thing that's really crucially important is that you need to have fun and enjoy it. This is fundamental to growth and development, and you don't want to feel kind of frustrated, because being in that mindset and that headspace makes it difficult for you to grow and to benefit from the successes that you're having. So, you know, if you have to step away for a little bit, that's also fine. Do that. It will give you the space to kind of think about where it is that you want to go and how it is that you can keep going, as I said, when things get really difficult. And again, it can turn into a learning opportunity too. So what is a successful brand after all of that? Being a successful brand means being recognized, being trusted by your audience. So you stand out not just for the work that you do, but why you do it and who you are as an individual. Your interactions and your exposure online and in person is absolutely related to the growth and success of your business. So that's really important to remember, that how you kind of speak to other people and how you organize yourself with others, attending events and behavior, all of these things will fill in. But all of the little tiny things that you think are super insignificant actually aren't. They all really do add up. personal branding. The importance is the process of creating an identity for yourself as an individual or a business. And this involves developing a well-defined, consistent look, message, and presence online and offline. So as I said, the two really do go hand in hand. So that was quite quick. Thank you so much for listening to this. I hope that there were some gems in there that you found useful. You can absolutely find me on social media. I have put my Instagram and my Twitter. I don't spend a lot of time kind of on my Facebook page, but you can find me on Facebook as well. And then my website is there. So as I said, thank you so much for listening today.
Right, so the first question we have is, what advice would you give someone who can't find their genre? This person, she hasn't found her genre or one thing to throw herself into, and therefore she feels like she's been held back from growing her business. At the moment, she's literally shooting anything.
That is literally how I got started. I shot anything and everything, and the things that I just absolutely felt were just so boring. Which might be somebody else's cup of tea, but I didn't feel like I really enjoyed them. You know, getting up to go and photograph a birthday party for children. Yes, I did a few of those and I realized they just were not my cup of tea. As much as they were fun and energetic, I just didn't enjoy it. And I think the more that you do it, the more you'll realize that, yeah, I'm kind of not sure about that. I think what might also help is going back to what made you want to start photography in the first place. Sometimes you can find some really good gems in there. It's not easy figuring out the kind of genre that you want, and for some people it comes a lot easier. Others it takes a little bit more time, but keep going, you will absolutely find it, and when you do, you'll know exactly what to do.
I think it's also quite a natural inclination, isn't it? When you start a business or you move into something, some other area, you kind of accept everything because
Definitely.
you have to say yes, because, you know, what if there's nothing else around the corner?
Exactly, I agree, and you get kind of stuck in that, but the things that you kind of start to enjoy more and more, you can kind of make the most of and kind of shout about it, and then you'll kind of find yourself slowly moving in that direction, and then you can let go of the less enjoyable stuff as time goes.
Okay, we have another question, which is they say, well, it's a statement initially: your lighting is amazing. How did you learn that?
Thank you, that is so sweet, thank you so much. Okay, so I spend a lot of time training, especially earlier on, and then practice, tweak and practice. That I think is so important, and I kind of fell into this trap actually of going on workshops and then not practicing, and then wondering why I'm not moving forward. And it's because all the knowledge is actually in my brain, but I'm not doing it, so I'm not seeing the difference. So definitely practice, go on a workshop, and then within like days do a couple of model calls, or just try it out, or try out the lighting on yourself. YouTube, I YouTubed a lot, and I still do. Some of my favorite photographers to follow on YouTube include Lindsay Adler, and I think her lighting is spectacular. She breaks down a lot of her setups and styling and lighting, and you can gain so much from that. This is free education, guys. Don't sleep on YouTube. Get yourself on there and type in Lindsay Adler or just lighting or whatever you feel. And when you find something that you like, give it a go, try it out. Trial and error is your absolute best friend.
That's great advice, because I think actually, particularly with YouTube, I mean, like you say, it's free advice. There's such a depth of learning capability there, but it's really easy to watch it and then it all kind of drifts past you. And then you're standing there with you've got your lights and you've got your camera, and it's just, right. You really need to kind of, right, okay, follow the steps, do it. It's like muscle memory, isn't it? Athletes don't learn to run by watching YouTube. You know?
Exactly.
You
have to do the doing.
Yeah. Okay. Someone was asking what your future plans are.
Oh gosh, I know. Okay, so last year I I had it in my head that, well, put it this way, on my vision board I had travel,
Mhm.
and I traveled a lot last year, so I feel like I can kind of, I'll say half tick that box, because I don't want to kind of close the chapter on that.
Mhm.
But I'd love to teach internationally, like actually physically go and do that.
Mhm.
I've been loving doing the online courses. That's been amazing, but there's nothing like being in a room with people that all kind of love the same things. So I'd love to do that. Focus on growing my business a little bit more. I think we can all attest to being a one-woman band, and it is so difficult, and I'm realizing now that I really do need to work on getting some help. So I think that's kind of my next steps of figuring out what that kind of help looks like, whether it's a virtual assistant or someone physically in the studio. So that's kind of where my sort of main focus is, and then equally trying out new things. There's so many things I've seen online, and I'm itching to get going with trying out new stuff and just continuing to enjoy the process, because it's been a tough few years and we've kind of been in survival mode, and I'm just excited to kind of do more stuff.
Yeah. So I think we all wanted to travel last year, didn't we? Because finally we
Oh,
could again.
finally, like, let me go wherever the
Yeah.
opportunity is. I'm out there. Yeah.
But when you do the destination shooting that you want to do you want to, like you say, have a studio in a city, in New York or something like that, and teach people in it, or do you want to go to, I don't know, shoot outside, or is it, is it meeting different people from different nationalities that you want to teach?
Definitely. Oh my gosh, definitely. So a year ago, I went to South Africa. So it was in January, and it was like for a creative retreat. And on the very last day, this incredibly beautiful woman walked into the cafe we were in. And it turns out she was like Miss South Africa in 2014.
Oh wow.
And she was like, oh my gosh, like, would you like to shoot sometime? And I was like, I'm leaving Cape Town like this afternoon. So I would love the opportunity to maybe go back there and reconnect with her and create some stunning content. I mean, she's beautiful,
Yeah.
and Cape Town is absolutely stunning. So I would love to do that. And equally, I had photographers that had been following me who are based in South Africa and other countries in Africa as well, asking if I would coming over to teach. And I thought, this is insane. Like, how crazy is that? So maybe, one day that can happen. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good starting point. Miss South Africa.
Mm.
You mentioned competitions, and you entered quite a few of them. What amount of entering the competition do you think helped you psychologically, or was it kind of, were you motivated by the prize or the possibility of exposure, or was it kind of like going through the process and feeling confident when you got a result?
I would say it's a combination of all of those things.
Mhm.
What I've learned from entering competitions is actually that a lot of the value is in the journey and also the feedback. Wherever possible, go to, even if you haven't entered any, it's so valuable to go and actually watch a judging take place, because you learn so much from these incredible photographers who have done training to judge and have been judging for the longest time, give absolutely fantastic critique, and it gives you the opportunity to take down some nuggets of information and learn about how to take an award-winning image, but also how to kind of improve yourself. This is also free training apart from getting to the event. So yeah, it was a combination of all of those, and I don't always win, but I enter to push myself to think, how can I kind of do better than last year, or get a higher score, or what did I need to change last time that I can kind of implement this time. It's always a learning event for me. So I'm not necessarily motivated by the prize, although it's great when you do win, because you think, oh my gosh, finally, I actually did it and I've got this. And yes, the exposure is amazing, but you really feel like, I did it this time, and it's been one of the things that I've wanted to do. So when you do win, it's awesome, but when you don't, it's not a negative at all. Take the feedback on board and learn from the judges, and then eventually you will get there.
I'm really glad you said that. I mean, one of the things I was used to do when I entered competitions was, when you don't get placed or you don't win or whatever, is look at my image and compare it to something similar in the, did get placed, and not in a kind of like, oh God, I'm so terrible, but kind of try and identify why that
Yeah.
image had been selected. And that I found that a really beneficial process. And then the next time, you know, it's always about trying to improve yourself, not trying to be better than other people.
Exactly, 1000%. I think the moment that you start to do it because you want to be better than someone else, you actually lose the focus. And I think the drive to actually improve yourself comes down because it just becomes a competition against other people. And I don't think it's not a nice kind of mind frame to be in. And even without competitions, you know, we always think, oh, there's so many photographers and this person down the road is doing this and they're better than me because they have 20 more bookings than I do. It doesn't actually matter what the person down the road is doing, as long as you kind of focus on what it is that you want to get out of something. And that's really, really important. I mean, I try to kind of think that there isn't, not that there isn't any competition, but that I don't need to worry so much about that because the right people and the right clients and the right reasons are there. So if you put your energy there, then it will all work out. And then you can go for coffee with the photographer down the road. Why not make friends instead? Because then you have someone to kind of bounce ideas off or share with. Or what I've been doing recently actually is meeting up with other photographers, and we're creating content together and we're doing shoots together and getting models in and just having fun and playing with lights and photographing each other. And honestly, it's the best creative way to kind of make friends with the photographers down the road. So yeah, I think it's a mindset change.
Excellent. Now, someone else said, thank you, Tianna. It's very inspirational. They love the fact that that you create vision boards, and they've asked if you print your own work or do you use an external company?
I literally got a piece of paper and I found pictures on the internet, cut them out, and I stuck them on this vision board. So I like to make it a practical exercise because I felt like I'd put more into it.
Yeah.
There's so many apps and I download them all the time and then I use them once and they never come back. But my vision board was like printed in front of me on the wall. It had a plane on it. It had the car of my dreams on there, which I have now. And it's not like the most super amazing car in the world, but it's what I wanted. So I think the kind of practical side of it resonated with me a lot more. But I think, you know, if apps work well for you, try them out. There's some awesome ones. I can't recommend because I get overwhelmed with apps. But I loved the process of actually creating the vision board.
There's something a bit about you connect with something in a different way when you actually touch it as well. So, you know, the fact that you cut out that picture of a plane and stuck it on there rather than just finding something on an app and plopping it onto a blank canvas, so to speak. Quite different. But in terms of your images that you create, that you shoot, who do you print it or do you use a company?
Oh, so in terms of the images, I do use a company. I use folio boxes from Nphoto. And I absolutely adore them. I think they're beautiful. So I have them handle my folios and albums currently. And then any kind of like framed products and wall art, I use Digital Lab and I adore them also.
What would you say is the importance of values to a brand?
Oh my gosh, that's super, super, super important, especially like that's like up here. We have, especially if you're, I mean, photographing people or environments or animals, we have a duty of care always to that person, or if, you know, we're photographing animals, to their habitat or to the environment, making sure that we're keeping it clean, nice and tidy. So, you know, responsibility is huge. And I think that we should keep that at the top of our priorities always. That's something that's really important to me. And I think that being a midwife kind of really instilled that into me, that, you know, you are responsible like for this woman and baby. So that carried through. But I think that regardless of the genres that you do, we can always be responsible.
And I'm guessing with your work, particularly with the maternity photography, that you want people to enjoy that session, don't you? You're not going to be a complete diva to get the best photo, because they're not going to enjoy it. They're going to stiffen up. And if you have a bit of fun and they'll relax and you'll get some nice shots and they'll believe in what you're doing.
Exactly. And I think this is why I like to meet them beforehand wherever possible, try to do a Zoom or have them come in, because it does help to break the ice. I know that often people are really nervous and it's their first experience. coming to a studio to have a session. So yeah, it's hugely important to kind of make it about them. And I say to them, you know, look, I'm not going to expect you to know what to do or how to do it. I will stand next to you. We'll work it out together. We'll sit down and chit chat if we have to for 5 minutes. And it sometimes turns into a bit of a therapy session. And I'm just listening to them and letting them kind of just, you know, and they're like, oh, I'm glad I've got that out. I'm ready now. And they're like, flick their hair and they're like, let's go. And I'm like, yes, you're amazing. So lots of like positive encouragement, reinforcement, but also letting them know that, you know, I'm here for you. We're going to do this together, so that, you know, they don't feel like they're alone, and you just kind of expect them to know what to do, and you're going to hide behind your camera. Sometimes put the camera down and just kind of handhold if you have to.
That's good advice. We have a couple of questions about editing. Firstly, do you do your own editing?
90% of the time I do. I would probably most likely outsource newborn photography work to my editor, because it can be very time consuming, and sometimes babies come for their session, lots of colors, lots of skin issues, and I sit and think, this is going to take me a really long time, and my retoucher can solve this issue for me in a couple of days. So I will let that go. But I'm really particular about maternity work, because I don't want to kind of do too much to them. I would hate to think that somebody look back at their images and think, gosh, was that really me? Did I, you know, I don't remember looking like that. So I like to have that control. So I will do my own editing the majority of the time. There has been occasions where I have outsourced some maternity work, but it's because I was kind of swamped and I maybe took on more than I should have. But otherwise, it's mine, it's my baby. So I will definitely edit those myself if I can.
Do you use any presets as starting points or anything like that?
I don't really use presets. I do use actions, although in saying that, I do use, I don't know if anybody's heard of, like, it used to be called Alien Skin, but it's now exposure software. Sometimes on occasion I have used that in Photoshop to kind of as a finishing touch for images, but not always. But in terms of like presets, I mean, I have done weddings, so sometimes I'll use presets in that sense, but not necessarily for studio work.
And then the sort of adjunct to the first editing question is, do you find that editing goes hand in hand with branding? And if so, how did you find your editing style?
I think it does, simply because I wanted to keep my work sort of really clean. Although I will say sometimes I go a bit crazy with the colors and the styling, but that tends to be kind of more of a cultural influence, where some cultures, particularly African cultures, are very like bold, bright, Caribbean of color, and, you know, looking really bold and strong. But when I think about kind of my brand, it's very kind of clean, neat and tidy, and so I want my images to also reflect that. I think when things start to align, it builds trust and confidence in your clients. So yeah, my style definitely has changed, and I've scaled back quite a bit. And I also do kind of have that conversation with my clients about how their images are going to look at the end, and the amount of retouching that I will do or won't do in some cases. I do get some very strange requests from people, and then I do get people that are just like, I'm happy to be me. So yeah.
I guess, I mean, one of the things about Photoshop and similar sort of software packages is there's quite a few different ways of achieving the same thing. And with a bit of time and experience, you can look at a picture and think, or you look at a scene and think, I'm going to do it like this, and then I'll edit it like that, and I'll just tweak that. And it takes a lot less time than it did in the first weeks of doing that kind of thing.
Definitely. And that is great. That's what you want. And I think over time I've learned, we all hear the term, get it right in camera, get it right in camera, get it right in camera. It really does save you time at the end. And there have been times I made a mistake recently where I really should have ironed this fabric. And it's taken me a very long time to kind of like go in and edit out the creases and things like that. You save yourself so much time in post-processing in the end. So yeah, just making those kind of extra steps, it will lessen your editing time, and then you can spend more time on other things, either in your business or with your family or for yourself. So,
or ironing.
or ironing, yes.
There's a couple of people are sort of coming back to this theme about narrowing down and you know, getting a specific focus? Because you're saying,
Mm.
how do you, have you got any tips for achieving that if you are genuinely interested in quite a few things? You know, how do you find the genre that is the right one for you, do you think?
I think when you get that inquiry in the genre that you like, it's a feeling that you have where you're like, oh, yes. And you can, and they tell you about what it is that they want from you, and their ideas align with the ideas that you have or how you like to work. When I get a client that tells me, you know, they want this session and they want their images to look really sleek and clean, or they love black and whites, or they want to do some really kind of beautiful arty nude portraits, I'm like, heaven has opened, thank you. And I think, you know, deep down what it is that you love. Sometimes what makes it hard is, you know, you need to make money when you're running a business, and it's hard to kind of turn down inquiries that you don't necessarily want to do. And I think sometimes that clouds your judgment, because it actually might be a good session, it might be a good shoot, and you think, well, I enjoyed that, so should I do that more? But if you have something that comes through and you're like, yes, 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 this is exactly the inquiry I wanted with the people that I wanted, I think then you'll start to know. Equally, there is nothing wrong with not niching down either. I think it's absolutely fine to do multiple genres if you love multiple things. And I think that's incredibly skillful to be able to do that, especially if you can do them well. I know that I struggled with doing different things and having that consistency. So niching down to kind of maternity portraits and like womanhood suited me best. And hand in hand with my career and my background in midwifery kind of solidified that for me. So yeah, I admire anyone who can like shoot anything and make it look awesome. Like, you rock on, because that's great. So yeah.
Actually, I think that you touched on something there, actually, because it might be that you love shooting a particular genre, but you're better at something else. So it might be you kind of do the other thing that you're better at to make the money, while you build up your experience with the thing you really love doing until it
That's
elicits the
it.
responses that you want.
Totally, that's absolutely it. Yeah.
And I guess another option also is to kind of like, if you like doing everything, find out which photographs do get the best response from people. You know, what are people really wanting to book you for, or what people, you know, if you've got 6 pictures on the wall, which is the one that makes people stop and look, and maybe that's what you need to
Exactly. Definitely. And also look back at your work and look at the images that you've taken that took your breath away, where you think,
Mm.
oh, like I have images like that, and I look at them and I think, wow, like this is an image that I took and it made me really realize, yes, I'm doing the right thing. We've all got them. Look back at those and see how they make you feel, and just kind of hold that for a moment, and then you're like, yeah, I know exactly what it is. That feeling every single time.
Okay. So turning to social media, what would you advise regarding social media? How do you grow and get followers on Facebook? Well, you said you don't do Facebook very much, but maybe Instagram.
Instagram, I found the more that I actually show myself, the more my following grows. But I also think that we should engage with others. It's a social platform, so be social. Engage with others, engage with your followers, ask them questions, and get them to kind of take action, and people will follow. I try to avoid reels as long as possible. I have done a few. Let them see what you're up to behind the scenes. It doesn't have to be this well curated creative piece of, you know, artistry. It can literally just be, hey, here's what I'm doing today. I've got my camera, I've got my lens, I'm at this location, or I'm in the studio, here's my client, this is my light. Literally, that can be it. And people love that, because they love to see what's going on, what are you up to. Go live every now and again. It's absolutely scary, but people join. Sometimes I did a live, I think last month, and I was just like, I'm just gonna go live on Instagram and have a chit chat, and people were asking me how my day was, so I was asking them how their day was. People follow you because they want to know who you are, they love what you do, and they want to see the person behind the camera. So share with them, and then thank them for doing that, because then they'll think, oh, she said thank you, that's so nice. So it is really all about engagement, and the more that you engage, you get rewarded for that. I mean, these platforms want you to spend as much time as possible on there, to, you know, just spend like 30 minutes or so responding to replies, messages, but then find the content that you adore and love. And other people that you follow and go and engage with them as well.
Do you do many stories, or do you concentrate on posts and the odd reel?
I do quite a bit of stories, and it probably is just me resharing posts in my stories.
Yeah.
But again, it might just be like, this is what I'm up to today with a picture, or like, you know, just a little moving video like this to show people a bit of the behind the scenes. And then maybe I'll, you know, tag someone else and say, hey, what are you up to? And other people will like reshare it and say what they're doing, and they'll reshare it. So you get a little bit of visibility from their followers too.
Now we've got a few kind of more business related questions.
Okay.
Any advice on the different photography associations for new photographers, professional photography associations? There's lots to choose from, and they were wondering if you, and maybe some competitions you might recommend as well.
Yeah, sure. So I don't have experience of all of the associations, but the one that I've been with the absolute longest since 2017 is SWPP. And speaking about them, I mean, we have the absolutely incredible convention that happens once a year. This is an awesome event with loads of classes, shopping, but also networking, just chilling with your friends that you haven't seen since like last year. That's a great thing about SWPP. Now they also have the Mentor Me, so if you want feedback on your images, you can submit 20 images, I think it is, and get some feedback. You can be a part of the Facebook group, which has got so many members in there, and everybody's really friendly and willing to help. There's so many benefits like insurance, discounts on software. Then we have like the monthly image competition, which you can enter once a month, one image per category. I like to enter maternity, but I also enter some into like black and white and some portraiture based stuff too. And you know, you don't get to have feedback on that, but if you are awarded maybe highly commended, then you know you have the chance to be upgraded to gold. And if you do get gold, then you potentially could be up for photographer of the year come the end of the year. And then they have the print competition, which is also a really good competition to enter for obvious reasons. You learn so much actually about print as well as you know, creating imagery. And that's also a really good judging to go and watch, because again, you learn so much, and it's all about paper choice and mount choice and these things that we kind of think, oh, but it looks fine, but actually adds to the overall kind of impact and creativity and style. It's invaluable. I go every year and I'm speaking at the trade show, but the print competition is definitely one thing that I try to attend and watch some of the judges for. So I would say that's a great competition to enter, as well as the monthly image competitions too.
And I think one of the great things about SWPP is that most of the members started at the beginning, you know, at the beginning of their photographic journey, the beginning of their photographic business. So they understand somebody who's new, why they're, you know, why they're coming in, which is really beneficial. Now, another question about business: how many sessions do you tend to do a week these days, and how long till you're getting, how long did it take you to get sort of consistent work?
So I would say I'm quite low volume, if I'm honest, although I seem to manage to fill my time somehow. So I'm about like 1 to 2 sessions a week, if I'm really honest with you. But then and that's like booked sessions, and then I will do model calls or just kind of taking self-portraits to practice lighting. And then occasionally, some weeks are busier than others. I might squeeze in like a couple of headshots because they only take like 15-20 minutes to get those done. It took a while to get that kind of consistency that does build up over time. And in terms of like my session length for maternity, the clients are actually physically in the studio with me for 4 hours altogether, but that's because they're having makeup and hair done first thing in the morning, 10 till about 12:30, and then I'm photographing them for about 2 hours. It sounds like a lot, but it goes very quickly, and we take loads of breaks. So we get as much as we possibly can do done. But again, you know, I go kind of by what they want from the session. I have actually had to cut a session short because mum wasn't well. So I was like, nope, you need to go. We cannot, absolutely cannot go any further with the session. Luckily, we had enough for a full gallery, and it turned out she had iron. So sometimes, you know, we have to kind of make those decisions too. You don't always know. She kind of told me, but she just wasn't well. But ideally, that's the length of time that they're with me for. So, you know, I've got snacks and like water and refreshments, but I do encourage them to bring things and have breakfast in the morning before they come.
Good move. It's very important. And could you offer any advice about pricing?
Oh, pricing. Okay.
It's always a thorny subject.
It is a really kind of, pricing is such a challenge, and it's something that I've struggled with and still do occasionally struggle with now. What's really important is that you need to price yourself in a way that your business makes money. Otherwise, you are just having your clients come to you, and you're not going to be able to grow your business if you can't make back money. So that's the first thing. I know that sometimes people are kind of like scared to raise their prices, and I've absolutely been there. But you're going to lose some clients and then new ones are going to come along, but you've got to follow that up with the consistency. So showing up online and building your brand in that way that people recognize you and they come back to you. And when they think about that certain session, you're one of the photographers at least that they think about. Pricing, there's so many different ways that you can do it. Currently, I do a session fee plus packages model. Others do kind of all-inclusive, some sell digitals only, some do, you know, prints and digitals like I do with the folio boxes and things. But it's all about kind of adding that value as well. So making them see that what they're paying is absolutely worthwhile. I wouldn't say I'm not the cheapest. I don't think I'm the most expensive, but I'm not the cheapest. So lower volume is absolutely the way that I'm going to go with how I've priced. And you've got to be comfortable with that. And as I was raising my price, I realized I wasn't, but now it's okay. That's fine for me. It means that I can kind of spend more time with them. So I think you've got to decide on what model works best for you. If you want to be seeing a lot of different clients each week, and that's kind of what you thrive on, is like connecting with loads of different people, go for it. Price yourself in a way that allows for you to do that, but that you can still make the money that you need, because that's really important. And this equipment is not cheap. And I'm sure you want holidays at the end of the year too. So make sure you prioritize those things, because you can just keep working and working and working, and you will burn yourself out and you won't be any good to your family or your business or yourself. And I've been there, and it's not pleasant, because then you can kind of fall into that place where you don't enjoy photography anymore. And that's quite a scary place, especially when it's something that you absolutely love. And I have absolutely felt like that, and I didn't like it, so I knew I needed to make some changes, yeah, just kind of figure out what works best for you, what kind of model, and not necessarily what is particularly what the client wants, because they all want different things, and they can dictate which way your business goes, and it might not be right for you. So yeah, really kind of work out what you want out of your business, the kind of income that you want to have, and whether it's going to sustain not only your business but yourself as well. That's the advice I can kind of give.
And also, I guess the type of clients that you want.
Oh gosh, definitely. I found that I had more the clients I wanted to work with as I raised my price. I get a lot of inquiries, and I don't book every client because I'm not the photographer for them, but because I have a strong kind of online presence, they will come and inquire, and that's fine. But I do get clients that expect a lot more. They expect to pay more money. They expect more of a service. They expect more of an experience. So it's fine. You know, when I'm explaining to them what the prices are, they're like, okay, that's fine. This is kind of what I was expecting from everything I've seen. They do their research. They really, really do, especially those types of clients. One thing I'll mention too is that I found that the clients that inquire with me via Facebook tend not to be kind of my ideal clients, not particularly. Clients on Instagram, I have booked some, but not most. My kind of biggest spending clients, or the clients that are really particularly looking for someone to create type of session in the way that I do, find me on Google. they're doing their research and they're looking around, and they kind of want to find someone that shoots the way that they kind of imagine in their mind. And I feel like that's kind of where I spent a lot of my focus, kind of building up my SEO and my Google presence so that I can reach those kinds of people. One thing that I kind of saw on a TikTok recently was that, and I mean, I'm not necessarily aiming for super rich people, because I don't know, I just, their kind of values sometimes are in a different place. But they said that, you know, the types of people that are willing to kind of spend that way don't necessarily have time to spend on social media. So if they are looking for something, they're going to be very meticulous about it, and they end up going on Google and seeing what they can find. So that kind of made me think, right, that's where I need to sort of, you know, spend quite a bit of time making sure that my website looks right, so that when they do reach it, they think, yeah, this is someone that I need to speak to and see if I can get what I want, and I'm happy to pay for that.
And you mentioned search engine optimization of SEO, that obviously that's important and you can get help with that. But what you touched on right at the end there was making sure your website looks right, so that your images represent the work that you do, that you want to do. So if you want to move towards just shooting, say, black and white imagery, don't put color stuff on there, even if it's good, because people will come to you for color work, but you want to do black and white. It's kind of, that kind of thing is important as well, isn't it?
So very important. Like, if you don't want to do cake smashes, then take them down, because when people come to your website and they see cake smashes, they're going to think that's what you do. Equally, I do photograph newborns, but you'll see on, like, across my social media, I don't share them that often. And that's because I don't necessarily want to shoot as many newborn sessions, so I don't get as many newborn inquiries. I do get them because people search on the internet and they'll go on my website and see, oh, she does newborns, yes, okay, I'll make an inquiry. But it's a session that I want to do less of, so I'm going to show less of it so that I don't attract those clients. When I share maternity work or show like my best images, and you've got to really kind of be, you know, meticulous about what you choose to share, because that will attract the clients that want that. So if you don't like doing milk bath maternity, I don't have a bath, so I can't do it, then don't share it, because then people will see that and they'll think, oh yeah, she does that, so I'm going to go and inquire with that person. It doesn't necessarily mean that you won't get inquiries from people that have been on Pinterest and then they find you and they're like, can you do this? This is what I want. And it's fine to say our studio doesn't offer that, but this is what we offer. Is that something that we can talk about? Because they go on there and they search and they see things and it's pretty and they like it, so they just assume that everybody does it. But I think if you're really clear about what you do with your imagery and obviously what's written on your website, then, you know, it sends a really strong message to the right people.
Okay. Now the last question, and I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be, or at least what you're going to mention. What is your favorite lens to use for studio work?
Okay, so my absolute favorite lens currently, which is in my camera bag, is my 70-200. I do love that. However, the 85mm 1.2 Nikon Z lens has just arrived finally, and I tell you, I have been waiting the length of a pregnancy for this lens to arrive. I got to shoot with that on Friday, and it is the most beautiful piece of premium glass on the planet. And I know that when I do finally get my hands on one, I cannot imagine any other lens on my camera. If I'm really honest with you, it is lighter than the current lenses that I used. I use a 50mm 1.2 and a 70-200, and it is an arm workout after a couple of hours. The clarity, the sharpness, it's silent, and I'm smiling because, and I tell you now, I walked around with this lens on Friday like it was a baby in my arms, because it was just a beautiful piece of kit. So that is absolutely my favorite by far, and I can't wait to perfect.
Good, right. Oh well, it's I look forward to trying it. So Tianna, it's been absolutely fantastic hearing from you, and everybody said that they've really felt inspired by you, and they've loved your enthusiasm as well. So thank you so much for talking to us tonight.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Angela, thank you so much for having me. And to the She Clicks community, I really appreciate you spending your time with me this evening. That means everything to me. So thank you so much. And of course to Nikon for sponsoring this, because that means the world. And they really value photographers. So yeah, thank you.
It's great. Well, hopefully we'll get to see you in person sometime soon.
Definitely.
Bye-bye.